My Harvard MBA daughter abandoned me on a dirt road in broad daylight. Just drove off. Left me standing in a cornfield 3 hours from home because I embarrassed her in front of her rich fiancé's family. 26 years I sacrificed for this girl. Worked 3 jobs to pay her $280,000 education. Destroyed my hands so she could live in a penthouse. And she repaid me by treating me like trash. You don't belong with these people, Dad. Those were her exact words before she sped away in the Lexus I was still making payments on. But here's what Sophia didn't know. As I stood there watching her taillights disappear, I wasn't heartbroken. I wasn't angry. I was smiling, because I'd been quietly documenting every lie she'd told about our family's wealth, every fake story about our background, every penny of support she'd taken while pretending to be self-made. What I did next cost her everything. Subscribe to hear how I changed every lock and exposed every lie. Let me take you back to where this all started. The Ashworth family estate. $8.5 million of old money arrogance sitting on 12 pristine acres in the Hamptons. I'd driven 3 hours in my 2018 Ford F-150 to celebrate my daughter's engagement. 127,000 miles on that truck. Bought it used for $18,000. It had served me well through countless security jobs, weekend handyman work, and late-night mechanic shifts. But pulling up to that circular driveway, watching valets park Mercedes S-Classes and BMW 7 Series, I knew I was in foreign territory. 200 guests, the elite of New York society, lawyers, bankers, real estate moguls, people who spent more on wine than I made in 6 months. I'd worn my best suit. Men's Warehouse, $89 on sale. I was proud of that suit. It was clean, pressed, appropriate. But walking into that party, surrounded by $3,000 Italian tailoring, I might as well have been wearing a neon sign that said blue collar. Sophia spotted me immediately. Her face went white. See, I'd worked security at this exact country club for 12 years. Weekend shifts, holiday events, wealthy weddings just like this one. I knew every corner of this place. The irony wasn't lost on me that I was finally attending as a guest rather than hired help. But Sophia? She'd spent months telling Bradley's family we were comfortable, that I was a successful contractor, that our family had old money roots. All lies. The truth was simpler. I was Daniel Harper, 58 years old, Army veteran, security supervisor at a downtown office complex Monday through Friday, weekend handyman for extra cash, the man who'd worked himself to the bone so his daughter could pretend to be something she wasn't. Bradley Ashworth III approached first. 29 years old, corporate lawyer, inherited wealth that stretched back 4 generations. Nice enough kid, actually. Polite, but completely out of touch with reality. Mr. Harper, he said, extending his hand, so good to finally meet you. Sophia's told us so much about your business. My business. Right. Just glad to be here, I said simply. That's when he noticed my truck through the window. His expression shifted. Confusion. Then something that looked like embarrassment. Is that your vehicle? Before I could answer, Sophia appeared at his side. She'd been watching us from across the room, and I could see the panic in her eyes. Dad, she said, forcing a smile, you made it. Wouldn't miss it for the world, sweetheart. But I could see her calculating, measuring the distance between her fairy tale and my reality. The truck, the suit, the calluses on my hands that no amount of scrubbing could hide. Bradley's mother, Patricia Ashworth, glided over next. 62 years old, dripping in jewelry that cost more than most people's houses. She looked me up and down like I was a specimen in a museum. Daniel, isn't it? How lovely. Sophia was just telling us about your construction empire. Construction empire. Jesus. I work with my hands, I said. Always have. The conversation died there. Patricia's smile became strained. Bradley looked uncomfortable. And Sophia? She looked like she wanted to disappear. That's when I realized what was happening. This wasn't just about class differences. This was about lies. Elaborate, months-long deceptions that Sophia had built to hide who she really was, who I really was. See, I'd raised her to be proud of hard work, to understand that every opportunity she'd been given came from sacrifice, from my sacrifice, But somewhere along the way, probably around her junior year at Harvard, she'd decided that story wasn't good enough, so she'd created a new one. I spent the next hour watching her performance. The way she steered conversations away from family history, how she changed the subject whenever someone asked about her childhood, the nervous laugh when Bradley's sister mentioned wanting to see old family photos. It was masterful, really. If I hadn't been her father, I might have believed it myself. But I was her father, the man who'd worked 70-hour weeks for 4 straight years to pay her Harvard tuition, who'd taken on debt for her expensive sorority dues, who'd co-signed the lease on her 1,200-square-foot Tribeca penthouse because her Goldman Sachs analyst salary, impressive as it was, wasn't enough for the lifestyle she wanted. $175,000 a year. That's what she made. Good money, great money for a 26-year-old, but not enough to maintain the illusion she'd created. That required Daddy's help, Daddy's credit, Daddy's guarantees on everything from her $8,000 monthly rent to her $15,000 credit limit. And now, watching her navigate this crowd of actual wealth, I understood the trap she'd built for herself. She couldn't afford to be found out, couldn't risk Bradley's family discovering that she wasn't one of them, which meant I had become a liability. The thought should have hurt, should have broken my heart. Instead, it clarified something I'd been struggling with for months. My daughter was ashamed of me, not disappointed, not frustrated, ashamed of the man who'd given her everything. As the evening wore on, I watched her careful choreography, the way she positioned herself between me and important conversations, how she guided me toward corners, away from the spotlight, the subtle signals she gave Bradley when I started talking about my work. I wasn't stupid. I knew what was coming. The real humiliation was still ahead. The breaking point came at 10:30 p.m. I was standing by the valet station, keys in hand, ready to say my goodbyes. It had been a long day, and I had an early shift Monday morning. Security work doesn't pause for family celebrations. That's when Sophia appeared beside me, her face flushed from champagne and anxiety. "Dad, we need to talk." She led me away from the crowd, toward a secluded corner of the estate's garden, away from witnesses. That should have been my first warning. "I've been thinking," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Maybe it would be better if you didn't drive home tonight." I studied her face in the dim lighting. 26 years of raising this girl, and I could read every expression. This wasn't concern for my safety. "I'm fine to drive, sweetheart. 3 hours isn't that far. It's not about the distance." She glanced back toward the party, where Bradley was visible through the windows, talking with his father. "It's about appearances." There it was, the word that would change everything between us. Appearances? "People are asking questions, Dad, about your truck. About your background." I felt something cold settle in my chest. "My background? You know what I mean." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Bradley's family has expectations. Standards. Standards. Don't make this harder than it has to be. I've worked too hard to get here." That's when I understood. This wasn't a conversation. This was a dismissal. "What exactly are you saying, Sophia?" She finally met my eyes, and what I saw there wasn't embarrassment anymore. It was contempt. "I'm saying you don't belong here. Look around, Dad. Really look. Do you see anyone else who drove here in a beat-up truck? Anyone else wearing a department store suit?" The words hit like physical blows, but I kept my voice steady. "I see people who've never worked a day in their lives. People who inherited everything they have. And I see people who understand class, who know how to present themselves appropriately. Appropriately." I repeated the word like it tasted bitter. "You mean like lying about where your money came from?" Her face went rigid. "I never lied." "Construction empire, Sophia? Old money roots? What do you call that?" "I call it presentation. Marketing. Something you've never understood." I pulled out my phone, checking the time. 10:47 p.m. I'd remember that timestamp forever. "So what's your solution?" I disappear into the night? Pretend I was never here? "I've already called you an Uber. It'll be here in 10 minutes. The casual way she said it. Like ordering takeout. Like disposing of garbage. "You called me an Uber. $347. I'm paying for it myself." Her voice carried a note of pride, like she was doing me some great favor, paying for my removal with money I'd helped her earn. That's when my phone buzzed. I glanced down at the screen, seeing her name. A text message sent while we were standing 3 feet apart. Please don't make this a scene. Just go, she'd texted me, rather than say the words out loud, as if putting it in writing made it less cruel. I looked up at her, this stranger wearing my daughter's face. 26 years, I said quietly. What? 26 years I've been your father. Through diapers and homework and heartbreaks and Harvard applications. Through your mother's cancer and funeral. Through every milestone, every achievement, every dream you've ever had. Dad, don't. And this is how it ends? With you shipping me away like an embarrassment? You are an embarrassment. The words exploded out of her, loud enough that a few guests near the windows turned to look. She immediately glanced around, mortified that anyone might have heard. But she didn't take them back. You drive a truck that belongs in a junkyard. You work security at office buildings. You live in Queens, for Christ's sake. Do you have any idea what Bradley's family would think if they knew the truth? The truth about what? That I worked 3 jobs to pay for your education? That I destroyed my body so you could have opportunities I never had? I never asked for your sacrifice. No, you just took it. For granted. I could see her calculating again, weighing her options, trying to find a way to minimize the damage. Look, this doesn't have to be ugly. Take the Uber. Go home. We'll talk when things settle down. When things settle down? When I'm married. When Bradley's family accepts me. When I don't have to worry about complications. Complications. That's what I'd become. I looked past her toward the party. Through the windows, I could see Bradley talking with his parents, probably wondering where his fiancé had gone. These people who thought they were welcoming her into their family, who had no idea they were embracing a fraud. You know what, Sophia? You're absolutely right. She blinked, surprised by my calm tone. I am? I don't belong here. These aren't my people. This isn't my world. Relief flooded her face. I'm glad you understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. I handed her my truck keys. You'll need to figure out how to get my truck back to me, since you're so concerned about appearances. Dad, Congratulations on your engagement, sweetheart. I hope you get everything you deserve. The Uber arrived exactly as scheduled. As I walked toward it, I heard her call after me. Dad, wait. I didn't mean... But we both knew she did. Her next words would cost her everything. The Uber ride home took 3 hours and 17 minutes. $347 of my daughter's money, watching Long Island blur past in the darkness. I didn't sleep. Didn't cry. Didn't rage. I calculated. 26 years of financial records. Every tuition payment, every living expense, every co-signed loan. The numbers were burned into my memory, but I wanted them exact, precise, indisputable. Harvard tuition, $280,000. Paid in full, on time, every semester. No student loans because dear old Dad worked himself to the bone. Sorority dues, $42,000 over 4 years, because networking was important for her future. Study abroad in London, $18,000 for 1 semester, because cultural experiences build character. Graduate school living expenses, $1,500 a month for 2 years, because a studio apartment near Harvard Business School wasn't cheap. Post-graduation support, co-signed her penthouse lease. $1.2 million purchase price, $8,000 monthly maintenance fees. Credit guarantees, $15,000 monthly limit on her American Express Black Card. Because appearances matter in Goldman Sachs circles. The car, Lexus RX 350, $52,000, still making payments because she needed reliable transportation. Emergency fund contributions, $500,000 in a trust account I'd built over 15 years. Her safety net, her future, her ticket to independence. Total investment in today's dollars, $847,000. $847,000 earned by a man she was ashamed to call father. By 4 a.m., I'd made my decision. Monday morning, I called in sick to work. First time in 3 years. Then I made 3 phone calls that would change everything. First call, Metroplex Locksmith. Emergency service, premium rates, but worth every penny. I need every lock changed in a Tribeca penthouse. Today, and I want the old keys destroyed. Sir, do you own the property? I'm the co-signer on the mortgage. My name's on the deed. We can have someone there by noon. Second call, Chase Private Banking, the same bank that had been handling Sophia's accounts for 8 years. I need to discuss my guarantor responsibilities on several accounts. Certainly, Mr. Harper. Which accounts specifically? All of them. The banker's tone shifted. Sir, removing guarantor status requires 30 days' notice, and I'm not removing it. I'm exercising my rights under the agreements, effective immediately. I, I'll need to transfer you to our legal department. Perfect. Third call, my lawyer. Jerry Kowalski, 63 years old, blue collar like me, understood how the world really worked. Jerry, it's Dan Harper. I need to restructure some financial arrangements. What kind of restructuring? The kind that teaches someone the value of independence. He was quiet for a moment. This about Sophia? Jerry had known our family for 15 years, handled my will, my insurance policies, the trust fund setup. He'd watched me sacrifice everything for a daughter who barely acknowledged his existence. Yeah, it's about Sophia. What do you need? I want to know exactly what I can and can't do legally. What my rights are as a cosigner, guarantor, and trust fund administrator. Dan, before we go down this road, you sure you want to? Jerry, she called me an embarrassment. Left me stranded on a road in the middle of the night because I wasn't good enough for her new family. Another pause. I'll have a full legal analysis on your desk by 5 p.m. The locksmith arrived at 12:15 p.m. Professional, efficient, no questions asked. By 2 p.m., every lock in Sophia's penthouse had been changed. Security system updated. Access codes modified. The old keys went into a shredder. At 3 p.m., I visited the building management office. Mr. Harper, the manager smiled, hear about Sophia's apartment? In a way. I need you to remove her as an authorized contact on the mortgage account. All communication should go directly to me. Sir, she lives there. She pays the maintenance fees. With my money. On accounts I guarantee. That's changing today. By 5 p.m., Jerry had delivered his analysis. 12 pages of legal documentation proving what I already knew. Sophia's entire lifestyle depended on my financial backing. Without my guarantees, she couldn't afford the penthouse. Without my credit support, her cards would be declined. Without my trust fund contributions, she had no safety net. She wanted independence. She was about to get exactly that. At 6 p.m., my phone rang. Sophia calling from Goldman Sachs. Dad, I can't get into my apartment. The keypad isn't working. I let it ring through to voicemail. She called again and again. By the fourth call, I answered. Hi, sweetheart. Dad, something's wrong with my locks. I can't get in. That's unfortunate. Have you tried a hotel? A hotel? Dad, what's going on? You said you wanted independence. You said I was an embarrassment. I'm just giving you what you asked for. Dad, this isn't funny. I need to get into my apartment. Then I suggest you figure out how to afford one. I hung up. This was just the appetizer. Tuesday morning brought exactly what I expected. Panic. My phone started ringing at 6:47 a.m. Sophia, discovering that her American Express black card had been declined at the St. Regis Hotel, where she'd spent the night after being locked out of her penthouse. I was sitting in my kitchen, drinking coffee from a mug that said World's Greatest Dad, a Father's Day gift from when she was 12, and still thought I was her hero. The irony wasn't lost on me. Dad, my credit card isn't working. Good morning to you too, sweetheart. This isn't a joke. My card was declined. At a hotel. Do you know how embarrassing that is? I almost laughed. She was worried about embarrassment? After what she'd put me through Saturday night? I imagine it's about as embarrassing as being abandoned on a dark road by your own daughter. Dad, please. Whatever this is, we can work it out. Just fix my cards. I can't fix what isn't broken, Sophia. Your cards work perfectly. You just can't afford to use them anymore. What does that mean? It means I'm no longer guaranteeing your debt. As of yesterday at 5 p.m., you're financially independent. Congratulations. The silence stretched for almost 30 seconds. I could practically hear her calculating the implications. You can't do that. Actually, I can. Jerry Kowalski confirmed it. I have every legal right to withdraw my guarantor status with 30 days' notice, which I provided to Chase yesterday. 30 days? You said this started yesterday. The process started yesterday, but the effective date? That's immediate. Your available credit is now limited to whatever you can qualify for based on your own income and assets. Another long pause. How much is that? Well, you make $175,000 a year. Good salary. Solid credit history. I'd estimate maybe $20,000 in available credit. 30 if you're lucky. 20,000? Dad, my monthly expenses are 15,000. Then I suggest you adjust your lifestyle accordingly. I could hear her breathing getting shaky, the reality setting in. Where am I supposed to live? I can't afford the penthouse without your co-signature. Not my problem anymore, sweetheart. You're an adult, a Harvard MBA, a Goldman Sachs analyst. Surely someone with your education can figure out basic economics. Dad, stop. This is insane. You're punishing me because of one argument? One argument? Sophia, you called me an embarrassment. You shipped me away like garbage because you were ashamed to be seen with me, in front of people I don't even know and frankly don't care about. I was stressed. It was a big night. I said things I didn't mean. Oh, you meant them. You meant every word. By Tuesday afternoon, the full scope of her situation was becoming clear. The penthouse management company had called me directly. Apparently, Sophia had been down there for 2 hours, demanding they override the security system. Mr. Harper, your daughter is quite upset. She's insisting we provide emergency access. Did she provide documentation proving she owns the property? Well, no, but she lives there. I'm the primary on the mortgage. My name is on the deed. She's been living there at my discretion, with my financial backing. That arrangement has changed. Sir, her belongings are inside. Then she should have thought about that before she decided she didn't need family anymore. Wednesday brought a new level of desperation. Sophia had apparently spent Tuesday night at a girlfriend's apartment in Brooklyn, a significant step down from her Tribeca penthouse. She called me from Goldman Sachs during her lunch break. Dad, people are starting to ask questions about why I'm staying with friends, about why my living situation suddenly changed. And what are you telling them? That there's been a misunderstanding, that we're working it out. Are we working it out? Dad, please. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry I said you were an embarrassment. I'm sorry about Saturday night. Can we just fix this and move on? Her apology sounded practiced, rehearsed, like something she'd run past her therapist or career counselor. Here's what's interesting, Sophia. In all your apologizing, you haven't once acknowledged why I might be hurt. You haven't asked about how I felt standing on that road. You haven't shown any curiosity about how I managed to get home. I assumed you figured it out. I did figure it out. 3 hours and 47 minutes in the back of an Uber you ordered to get rid of me. Plenty of time to think about our relationship. Our relationship doesn't have to change. We can go back to how things were. No, we can't. Because I finally understand how things really were. What do you mean? You weren't grateful for my support, Sophia. You were entitled to it. You didn't see it as sacrifice. You saw it as what you deserved. And when that support became inconvenient, when it threatened your carefully constructed image, you threw me away without a second thought. I could hear her crying now. Whether from frustration, fear, or actual remorse, I couldn't tell. Dad, I need my apartment back. I need my credit restored. People at work are starting to notice I'm struggling. People at work? You mean the same people you've been lying to about your family background? I haven't been lying. Sophia, I know about the stories you've been telling. The successful contractor father, the family money, the old connections, all of it. The crying stopped. How do you know about that? Because I'm not as stupid as you think I am. And because people talk. What people? The people who've been watching you pretend to be something you're not for the past 2 years. Thursday's call came from a different number. Bradley. Mr. Harper? This is Bradley Ashworth. I think we need to talk. About what, son? What? About Sophia. She's been staying with friends. Says there's been some kind of family misunderstanding. Is that what she's calling it? Sir, I don't know what happened between you two, but surely this can be resolved. Family disagreements shouldn't result in someone being homeless. Homeless. Interesting word choice. Bradley, has Sophia told you why she's not in her apartment? She said the locks malfunctioned. The locks work perfectly. I should know. I had them changed. A long pause. You had them changed? It's my apartment, son. My name on the mortgage. My money paying for it. When someone tells me I'm an embarrassment and ships me away like unwanted furniture, I tend to reassess our arrangements. She said you were an embarrassment? And there it was, the first crack in her perfect facade. She threatened to sue. I almost laughed. Friday evening, she showed up at my apartment. I live in Queens, a studio on the fourth floor of a pre-war building. $1,200 a month, which is a steal in New York. No doorman, no elevator, no marble lobby, just honest working class housing for honest working class people. The buzzer rang at 7:23 p.m. Dad, it's me. We need to talk. I buzzed her up, then waited by my door. 4 flights of stairs in designer heels. This ought to be interesting. She arrived breathless, still wearing her Goldman Sachs work clothes, tailored suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. The contrast between her outfit and my building's chipped paint hallway was striking. Nice place? She said, looking around like she'd entered a crime scene. It's home. She pushed past me into the apartment. All 480 square feet of it. Kitchen table that doubled as my desk. Fold-out couch where I slept. Television from 2015. Everything clean, organized, practical. Jesus, Dad, you live like this? I live within my means. She turned to face me, and I saw something I hadn't seen since she was a teenager. Fear. Real, desperate fear. Dad, this has gone far enough. I get it, okay? You're angry. You want to teach me a lesson. Lesson learned. Now fix this. Fix what? My apartment. My credit. My life. You're destroying everything I've worked for. Everything you've worked for? Sophia, you've been out of college for 4 years. In that time, you've earned maybe $700,000. Do you know how much I've spent supporting you during those same 4 years? That's not the point. It's exactly the point. You've been living a lifestyle that costs more than you make. The difference came from me. And when I became an inconvenience, you threw me away. She started pacing, her heels clicking against my linoleum floor. I didn't throw you away. I made a mistake. People make mistakes, Dad. This wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. A calculated decision to prioritize your image over your family. My image matters. Do you understand what it's like working at Goldman Sachs? The expectations? The competition? I can't afford to be seen as less than my colleagues. So you invented a new family history. I positioned our backgrounds strategically. You lied. I marketed myself appropriately for my environment. And there it was again, that casual corporate speak that turned family into a brand and love into a transaction. Who am I, Sophia? What? Simple question. Who am I? You're my father. What do I do for work? She hesitated. You're in security. I'm a security guard. I check IDs and patrol office buildings. I make $42,000 a year. I drive a used truck and live in a studio apartment and shop at discount stores. Dad? And despite all of that, I managed to give you opportunities that most people only dream about. Harvard, graduate school, a penthouse apartment, financial security. I never asked for any of that. No, you just took it. And when it became embarrassing, you decided I wasn't worth keeping around. She stopped pacing and stared at me. You can't do this to me. I have rights. I'll sue you. I almost smiled. Sue me for what? For withdrawing financial support? For changing locks on property I own? For exercising my legal rights as a guarantor? For what, Sophia? For refusing to subsidize someone who's ashamed of me? I'm not ashamed of you. Then why did you lie about my job? Why did you claim we had family money? Why did you ship me away from your engagement party like I was some kind of embarrassment? She had no answer for that. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to figure out how to live on your actual income. You're going to find an apartment you can actually afford. You're going to build a life based on what you've earned, not what I've given you. And if I don't, then you'll learn what independence really means. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Watching me struggle? I'm watching my daughter learn the value of the sacrifices she's taken for granted her entire life. She headed for the door, then turned back. This isn't over, Dad. You're absolutely right. Her friends were about to learn who really paid for Harvard. By Monday morning, Sophia had launched her campaign. Social media first. Instagram stories about family challenges and difficult times. LinkedIn posts about personal resilience and overcoming obstacles. Carefully crafted messages designed to generate sympathy without revealing specifics. But her real strategy was more sophisticated. She'd begun working her network, spinning a narrative that painted me as unstable and vindictive. I knew because people started calling me. Margaret Chen, the country club manager where I'd worked security for 12 years, reached out Tuesday afternoon. Dan, I heard some concerning things about you this weekend. What kind of things, Margaret? That you're having some kind of breakdown, that you've been making erratic financial decisions. Sophia's been telling people you're not thinking clearly. Margaret had watched me work every weekend for over a decade. She knew my character, my reliability, my dedication. If Sophia was trying to convince her I was mentally unstable, she was targeting the wrong person. Margaret, what did she tell you exactly? That you've suddenly cut off her access to family money because of some minor disagreement. That you're acting irrationally and she's worried about your mental health. Minor disagreement. That's what she called it. I shared the real story. The abandonment. The embarrassment. The years of lies about our family background. Margaret listened without interrupting. Dan, I'm sorry. I had no idea. Most people don't. Sophia's very good at managing her image. What can I do? Nothing right now, but keep your eyes open. This is just getting started. Wednesday brought more intelligence. Jerry Kowalski called with an update. Dan, Sophia's been asking around about challenging your recent financial decisions. She's claiming you're acting under emotional distress. On what grounds? She's suggesting you're not competent to make these choices. That grief over your wife's death has finally caught up with you, and you're taking it out on her. My wife had died 8 years ago. Cancer. Sophia was 18 then, just starting college. I'd grieved, dealt with it, moved forward. Using that tragedy to justify her current situation was a new low, even for her. She's really going there? Apparently. She's been telling people that you never properly processed your wife's death, and now you're having some kind of delayed breakdown. That's bullshit, Jerry, and you know it. I know it. But she's convincing, and desperate people say desperate things. Thursday brought the most interesting development. A call from Bradley. Mr. Harper, I need to ask you something directly. Go ahead, son. Sophia says your family has significant wealth, that you're withholding her inheritance because of personal animosity. Is that true? I was quiet for a moment, considering my response. Bradley, what exactly has Sophia told you about our family's financial situation? That you own a successful construction business, that there's generational wealth, that you're using money as a weapon because you're upset about some perceived slight. Generational wealth, construction business. The lies were getting more elaborate. Can I ask you to do something for me? Depending on what it is. Look up my actual employment history. It's not hard to find. Then ask yourself why a man with generational wealth would be working security at office buildings for $42,000 a year. The silence stretched for almost a minute. Mr. Harper, I'm starting to think there are things I don't know about this situation. There are a lot of things you don't know. But you're about to learn them. That evening I made a decision. If Sophia wanted to wage a public relations war, she'd pick the wrong opponent. I had something she didn't. Documentation. I called Margaret Chen back. Margaret, remember that Harvard tuition receipt I showed you last year, when I was explaining why I couldn't take vacation during busy season? I remember. I'd like you to see something else. Can you meet me for coffee tomorrow? Friday afternoon, Margaret and I sat in a diner near the country club. I brought a folder. These are Sophia's Harvard payment records. Every semester, every year, $280,000 paid by me. No student loans, no family trust fund, just a security guard working overtime. Margaret studied the documents. Jesus, Dan, you paid all this? Every penny, and that's just education. Here are the other expenses. I showed her the apartment down payment, the credit guarantees, the monthly support payments, the car loan, the emergency fund contributions. She's been telling people we have family money? Old money, according to Bradley's family, successful business, generational wealth. But this shows a working class father who sacrificed everything so his daughter could have opportunities. And when that became embarrassing, she decided to rewrite history. Margaret looked through the papers again. Dan, people need to know about this. People will know, but not yet. What do you mean? The wedding's in 48 hours, time for the grand finale. Saturday morning, I drove to my storage unit in Queens. 20 years of records, organized by year in banker's boxes. The complete financial history of raising Sophia Harper. I hadn't planned for this moment, but I'd always been meticulous. Every receipt, every bank statement, every payment confirmation. Call it military training or working class paranoia. When you don't have much, you document everything. Box by box, I reconstructed the true cost of my daughter's ambition. First box, elementary school expenses, private tutoring for math, piano lessons, summer camps. Nothing extraordinary, but it added up. $12,000 a year on average. Money I earned working double shifts at the security company. Second box, middle school. Sophia's first taste of elite education. Private school tuition, field trips to Europe, specialized college prep programs, $28,000 annually. I remembered taking a weekend job as a handyman to cover the shortfall. Third box, high school. Phillips Exeter Academy, $60,000 a year plus room and board. I'd worked 3 jobs that period: security during the week, construction on weekends, and late-night maintenance at a hotel. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford. Fourth box, Harvard. The big leagues, $70,000 a year, all expenses included. 4 years, $280,000 total. No financial aid because my income was just above the cutoff line. Too much to qualify for help, too little to afford it comfortably. But here's what the numbers didn't show: the physical cost. I pulled out my medical records from that period. Chronic back pain from construction work, repetitive stress injuries from security patrol, high blood pressure from working 70-hour weeks, pneumonia that I'd worked through because I couldn't afford to miss shifts during Sophia's sophomore year tuition payment. The doctor's notes were brutal in their simplicity. Patient reports working multiple jobs. Recommend rest and stress reduction. Patient decline, citing financial obligations. I'd literally worked myself sick to pay for her education. Box 5. Post-graduation support. The apartment down payment. Co-signing her lease. Guaranteeing her credit cards. Monthly emergency transfers that became routine. Another $150,000 over 4 years. Total investment, $847,000. But that was just money. The real cost was measured differently. I found the photos, birthday parties I'd missed because I was working, school events where I'd arrived late, still in my security uniform, graduation ceremonies where I'd fallen asleep in my chair because I'd pulled an all-nighter to pay for her cap and gown. 26 years of sacrifice, documented in receipts and medical bills, and missed moments. I spread it all out on my kitchen table, the full accounting of what it means to love someone more than yourself. Then I started scanning. Every document, every receipt, every payment record. By Sunday afternoon, I had a complete digital archive of my daughter's real financial history. But I needed more than numbers. I needed context. I pulled up Sophia's LinkedIn profile. 2 years of posts about professional success, networking events, industry conferences, photos from Goldman Sachs corporate retreats, mentions of her business background and family entrepreneurship. All lies, backed up by my financial statements showing exactly where her lifestyle money came from. Next, her Instagram. Designer clothes, expensive restaurants, luxury travel, the penthouse apartment views, weekend trips to the Hamptons with Bradley's family, a life carefully curated to suggest wealth and privilege, every image funded by a man she was ashamed to acknowledge. I found her interview with Harvard Business Review from last year. She'd been featured in an article about young professionals making their mark. The quote that caught my attention: I've been fortunate to come from a family that values education and has the resources to support ambitious goals. Having that foundation allows you to take calculated risks and pursue opportunities that might otherwise be impossible. Foundation, resources, calculated risks. No mention of a security guard working 3 jobs. No acknowledgement of destroyed hands and missed sleep and sacrificed health. Just vague references to family resources that made her success sound inevitable rather than hard-won. I printed the article and added it to my pile. Sunday evening, I organized everything into a presentation. Timeline of payments, medical records showing the physical cost, photos documenting missed moments, screenshots of her professional claims, a complete moral accounting of who paid for what. 26 years of sacrifice, reduced to spreadsheets and documentation. But that's what it would take. In a world where image matters more than truth, where networking trumps honesty, where people believe what sounds good rather than what is real, only hard evidence would cut through the lies. My phone buzzed. A text from Margaret Chen. Dan, heard from several people that Sophia's been telling everyone you're having financial difficulties and taking it out on her. People are starting to believe her version. I texted back. Not for much longer. The wedding was in 18 hours. Time for everyone to learn the truth. The rehearsal dinner was at the plaza. Crystal ballroom, 200 guests, $45,000 for one evening. Old money flexing its muscles. I wasn't invited, of course, but I knew the schedule, the location, the guest list. Information isn't hard to gather when you've worked security in these circles for over a decade. I arrived at 7:30 p.m. wearing my best suit, the same Men's Warehouse outfit that had embarrassed Sophia a week earlier, but tonight it felt like armor. The doorman recognized me. "Mr. Harper? I don't see you on the guest list." "Family emergency," I said simply. "I need to speak with my daughter." He hesitated, then nodded. Sometimes being the father of the bride carries weight. The ballroom was exactly what I expected. Crystal chandeliers, imported flowers, waiters in white gloves serving champagne that cost more per bottle than I made in a week. The Ashworth family's wealth on full display. I spotted Sophia immediately. Center of attention, surrounded by Bradley's relatives, laughing at something his mother had said. She looked radiant in a designer dress that probably cost $5,000. Money I'd helped her afford. The conversation stopped when they saw me. 200 faces turning toward the uninvited guest. Sophia's smile froze. "Dad?" She approached carefully, like I was an unexploded bomb. "What are you doing here?" "I came to wish you well, sweetheart, and to share some family history with your new relatives. This isn't the time or place. Actually, it's the perfect time. All these lovely people who've heard so much about our family's success. I thought they deserved the whole story." Bradley stepped forward. "Mr. Harper, perhaps we could discuss this privately." "No need for privacy, son. Truth doesn't require closed doors." I reached into my jacket and pulled out a folder. 26 years of documentation, organized chronologically. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to tell you about the Harper family wealth that Sophia's mentioned so often." The room went completely silent. Waiters stopped moving. Conversations died mid-sentence. "It's true, we do have family money. $847,000 worth, to be precise. Would you like to know where it came from?" Sophia grabbed my arm. "Dad, please don't do this." October 15th, 2018. Harvard Business School tuition payment. $47,000. Source: Daniel Harper. Working 3 jobs: security guard, weekend construction, and hotel maintenance. I held up the receipt, letting it sink in. March 20th, 2019. Sophia's spring break trip to Europe with her sorority sisters. $8,000. Source: Daniel Harper's overtime pay from pulling 70-hour weeks. More receipts. More truth. June 5th, 2020. Harvard graduation expenses. Cap, gown, celebration dinner, family photos. $3,000. Source: Daniel Harper, who worked through pneumonia because he couldn't afford to miss shifts. I showed them the medical records. Doctor's notes recommending rest. My refusal to take time off. September 1st, 2021. Down payment on Sophia's Tribeca penthouse. $240,000. Source: Daniel Harper's life savings, accumulated over 26 years of 60-hour work weeks. The gasps were audible now. Patricia Ashworth's face had gone pale. Bradley looked like he'd been punched. "But here's my favorite," I continued, pulling out the Harvard Business Review article. Sophia's interview last year, where she talked about coming from a family with resources and a foundation that allowed her to take calculated risks. I read her quote aloud. "I've been fortunate to come from a family that values education and has the resources to support ambitious goals." Resources, that's one way to describe a father who destroyed his body, working multiple jobs. Foundation, that's an interesting term for a man who sacrificed his health, his social life, and his financial security so his daughter could pretend to be something she wasn't. Sophia was crying now, but I wasn't finished. "Would you like to see those resources in detail? The hands that earned every penny of Sophia's Harvard education?" I held up my hands, calloused, scarred, arthritic from decades of manual labor. The contrast with Sophia's manicured fingers, displayed prominently on her social media, was stark. These hands unloaded trucks at 4 a.m. so Sophia could afford sorority dues. These hands painted apartments on weekends so she could study abroad in London. These hands never stopped working, never took a vacation, never had a day off because family comes first. The room was completely still. 200 people witnessing the complete dismantling of a carefully constructed lie. Or maybe you'd prefer to hear about our family business, because Sophia's mentioned that too, the Harper construction empire. I pulled out my W-2 forms from the past 5 years. Daniel Harper, security supervisor, annual salary $42,000, no construction business, no empire, just an honest job that barely paid the bills, but somehow covered a Harvard MBA's lifestyle because that's what fathers do. Bradley's father, William Ashworth II, stepped forward. 70 years old, inherited millions, genuinely confused. Mr. Harper, I don't understand. Sophia told us you were a successful contractor, that your family had established wealth. Sophia told you what she needed you to believe. Because the truth? That she's the daughter of a working-class security guard who sacrificed everything for her education didn't fit the image she wanted to project. I turned to face Sophia directly. A week ago, you called me an embarrassment. You shipped me away from your engagement party because you were ashamed to be seen with the man who paid for everything you have. My voice stayed calm, controlled. No anger, just facts. You told Bradley's family I was having a mental breakdown, that I was acting irrationally, that grief over your mother's death had made me unstable. More gasps. Using her mother's memory as a weapon had crossed a line even this crowd recognized. You told people I was withholding your inheritance out of spite. But here's the thing about inheritance, sweetheart. It usually comes after someone dies. I'm very much alive, and every penny you've spent came from my current income, not some family trust fund. Patricia Ashworth found her voice. Sophia, is this true? Sophia couldn't speak, couldn't deny it. The evidence was overwhelming, the documentation complete. The penthouse apartment you've been living in? I co-signed the mortgage. The credit cards you use for your lifestyle? I'm the guarantor. The car you drive? I'm making the payments. The emergency fund that gives you security? I built it dollar by dollar over 15 years. I gathered my papers, my evidence, my proof of 26 years of love and sacrifice. So yes, we do have family wealth. It's measured in destroyed hands and missed sleep and medical bills from working through illness. It's calculated in overtime hours and second jobs and summer wombs and sacrificed dreams. It's the wealth that comes from loving someone more than yourself. I looked around the room one final time. Enjoy your wedding, everyone. It's beautiful what money can buy, especially when you know where it really came from. I started walking toward the exit, then turned back. Congratulations on your independence, sweetheart. I hope you get exactly what you deserve. The silence followed me all the way to the door. Outside, my phone was already ringing. Margaret Chen. Dan, I just got a call from Patricia Ashworth. She's asking if what you said tonight was true. Every word. The wedding's been called off. The fallout was swift and complete. By Tuesday morning, the wedding was officially canceled. Bradley's family had released a statement about unforeseen circumstances requiring postponement. In elite circles, that was code for scandal. Sophia lost more than her fiancé. Goldman Sachs quietly reassigned her to a less visible position after partners started questioning her background claims. Hard to maintain credibility in investment banking when your professional foundation is built on lies. The penthouse went into foreclosure proceedings within 2 weeks. Without my co-signature, she couldn't qualify for the mortgage payments. $8,000 a month is steep when you're suddenly living on your actual salary. She moved to a studio apartment in Brooklyn. 600 square feet, $2,000 a month. Closer to what a Goldman Sachs analyst can actually afford without family subsidies. Her credit cards were canceled. Her trust fund, the $500,000 I'd built over 15 years, got a new beneficiary. The Queens Community College Trade Skills Program. Full scholarships for students pursuing careers in construction, security, and skilled labor. Working class kids who'd appreciate the opportunity. 3 months later, Sophia called me. Dad, I'm working 2 jobs now, bartending on weekends to make rent. How's that working out for you? It's hard. Really hard. I never realized how much you were supporting me. Most people work multiple jobs, sweetheart. Welcome to reality. I've been thinking about what you said, about sacrifice, about taking things for granted. And I think I finally understand what those 26 years cost you. I was quiet for a long moment. Do you, though? Do you really understand? Or are you just saying what you think I want to hear because you need money again? I don't want money, Dad. I want to apologize, actually apologize, for being ashamed of you, for lying about our family, for everything. Apology noted. Is there any chance we can rebuild this? Us? I looked around my studio apartment. Same place, same life, but somehow lighter now. Unburdened. My door is always open, Sophia. But the credit cards aren't. The co-signatures aren't. The financial safety net isn't. If you want a relationship with me, it'll be based on respect, not money. I understand. We'll see. She visits occasionally now, takes the subway to Queens, climbs 4 flights of stairs, sits at my kitchen table. We talk about work, life, the future. She pays for her own coffee. It's not much, but it's honest. And after 26 years of lies, honest feels like everything.